Natasha had always dreamed of having her own quiet corner, far from the noisy city, where she could relax and recharge. After many years of hard work and saving, she finally made her dream come true. She bought a small cozy house by a beautiful lake, just an hour's drive from the city. She imagined spending peaceful weekends there, enjoying the silence, entertaining guests, and spending time with loved ones. This house became her personal sanctuary, a place where she could leave all her worries behind. Natasha eagerly planned her new life, thinking about how she and Oleg would furnish the house, make it cozy, and fill it with love. Every day in that house was special. Natasha walked in the nearby forest, swam in the lake, read on the terrace, and cooked meals for Oleg. She was happy and content, feeling that all her dreams had come true. Oleg shared her enthusiasm. He helped choose furniture and interior items, offering ideas to make the house even cozier. Natasha rejoiced in his enthusiasm and believed that their new home would become a true family hearth. One evening, as they were about to spend a quiet evening together, Natasha noticed Oleg standing by the window, looking into the distance with his back to her. When he turned around, she saw a tense, anxious expression on his face. Something was wrong, although she didn't understand exactly what. Natasha felt uneasy. "Natasha, we need to talk," Oleg said in a serious voice. She turned off the stove and sat down at the table, her heart pounding. Something had happened. "What's going on, Oleg?" "You're scaring me," she said softly. Oleg took a deep breath as if gathering his courage. "I've been thinking, and I've decided," he began, avoiding her gaze. "Irina and Max need help." Natasha frowned. Irina was Oleg's ex-wife and Max was their son. She had never expected Oleg to still be so heavily involved in their lives. "Help with what?" she asked, bewildered. Finally, Oleg looked her straight in the eyes. "They'll be living with us," he said. Natasha was stunned. "What, are you serious?" "Yes, there's plenty of room here. It's better than their small apartment," Oleg explained. Natasha struggled to process his words. Anger and disappointment boiled inside her. How could he make such an important decision without talking to her? How could he just dispose of their home, her dream, like that? "Oleg, do you even understand what you're saying? This is our home. We planned our life together here," she said in a trembling voice. "There's no need to react so strongly," Oleg replied calmly. "It's temporary. They're going through a tough time right now, and Max needs his father. I want to be there for him. And what about me? Did you think about my feelings, about my plans?" Natasha asked desperately. Oleg shrugged. "You'll have to accept it. It's already decided. Irina is packing. They'll be here in a couple of days." These words struck her like a blow. Oleg didn't see her as a partner. He saw her as someone who had to adapt. All her love and effort seemed in vain. Natasha didn't argue. She quietly left the kitchen, needing solitude to think things through. Going upstairs, she locked herself in the bedroom, sat on the bed, and cried. She was hurt. She felt betrayed and frightened. Frightened that the life she had worked so hard to build could so easily crumble. After several hours of tears, she realized she needed to act. She couldn't let Oleg take control of her life. She needed help. Picking up the phone, she called her mother, Tatiana Sergeyevna. "Mom, I need your help," she said in a trembling voice. "What's wrong, darling?" "You're scaring me," her mother replied anxiously. Natasha told her everything, sharing all her pain and fear. Natasha told her mother about her feelings of resentment and anger. She explained that Oleg had decided to let his ex-wife and son move into their house without asking her opinion. Tatiana Sergeyevna listened attentively. "Don't worry, dear. We'll handle everything. Remember, the house is registered in my name," her mother reminded her. Natasha nodded. She had registered the house in her mother's name when she bought it, as a precaution in case of problems. "What should we do, Mom?" she asked. "We'll sell the house," Tatiana Sergeyevna said firmly. "You shouldn't stay with a man who doesn't respect or appreciate you." Natasha felt a wave of relief. Her mother was right. She didn't need to stay in a marriage or a house where she felt betrayed. "Thank you, Mom. Do whatever is necessary," she said in a calm and resolute voice. Tatiana Sergeyevna promised to immediately begin the process, contacting a trusted real estate agent to quickly find a buyer. Natasha felt a surge of strength. She no longer felt trapped. She was ready to take control of her life. Downstairs, Oleg was watching television, unaware of her tears. Natasha calmly approached him. "Oleg, we need to talk," she said. He turned off the television. "I'm listening," he replied. "I agree, Irina and Max can move in," Natasha said, maintaining a neutral tone. Oleg looked surprised. "Really? You're not upset?" "No, I understand. You want to help them. I just want you to be happy," she replied, looking him intently in the eyes. Oleg smiled and hugged her. "Thank you, Natasha. You're the best wife," he said, completely unaware of her real plan. Secretly, Natasha contacted the real estate agent her mother had recommended. She gave him all the documents and asked him to quickly arrange the sale without informing Oleg. Meanwhile, she continued to behave as usual at home, cooking, cleaning, and taking care of Oleg, quietly taking her fate into her own hands. Natasha continued to portray herself as a loving and caring wife, but inwardly she was quietly planning her revenge. She knew that Oleg would be thrilled when Irina and Max arrived at the house, picturing himself as the hero who had helped them. What he didn't know was that his happiness would be short-lived. Natasha was going to take away from him what he valued most, his home and his sense of self-worth. Oleg left for a few days to help Irina and Max pack and move. During that time, Natasha and her mother, Tatiana Sergeyevna, found buyers for the house. The buyers turned out to be an elderly couple, Pavel and Zenaida, who had always dreamed of living by the lake. Natasha agreed with them on the price and the date of the sale. Everything was ready. Now she only had to wait for Oleg's return. When Oleg drove up to the house by the lake, he was full of excitement. Irina and Max were sitting next to him in the car. Irina looked happier, her eyes shining with hope for a new beginning. Max, engrossed in his phone, barely noticed the trees flashing by. The car was packed with suitcases, boxes, and sports equipment. Everything that, in Oleg's opinion, should provide them with comfort in their new home. He turned off the engine and all three got out of the car. Oleg took a deep breath of the fresh lake air, straightened his shoulders, and looked at the house. "It looks even cozier now," he said, smiling. "Well, here we are. You'll like it here," he added, turning to Irina and Max. Irina responded with a smile, although a shadow of uncertainty flickered across her face. Max didn't take his eyes off his phone. "Come on, I'll show you the house," Oleg said, heading towards the front door. He confidently took out the keys, but froze when he noticed an elderly couple standing on the porch, watching them curiously. "Hello," Oleg said, frowning. "We've arrived." The elderly man stepped forward, his gray hair neatly trimmed and wrinkles etched around his eyes. "Hello," he said. "And you? Who are you?" "I'm Oleg, and this is Irina and Max. We live here now," Oleg replied, his smile faltering as he sensed something was wrong. "Here?" Oleg asked in a trembling voice, panic rising within him. "You live here?" the elderly man asked, raising his eyebrows. "Strange. We only bought this house yesterday from Tatiana Sergeyevna." Oleg froze. He looked at the woman next to the man. Her kind eyes and calm expression confirmed his worst fears. "Yes, we are Pavel and Zenaida," she said. "This is our house now." Oleg's knees buckled. He tried to think, but his thoughts were muddled. "You bought this house?" he mumbled. "There must be some mistake." "No mistake," Pavel replied calmly. "All the documents are in order. I can show you." He went into the house, took out a folded sheet of paper, and handed it to Oleg. Oleg mechanically took it, glancing at the stamps, signatures, and numbers, but understood nothing. Irina, who had been standing silently until now, finally spoke. "What's going on? Who are these people?" "They bought the house," Oleg whispered, panic creeping into his voice. From whom did they buy it? Irina asked, bewildered. From Tatiana Sergeyevna, Pavel replied. Your wife's mother. This is a misunderstanding, Oleg mumbled, trying to compose himself. This house belongs to my wife. We'll sort everything out. He grabbed his phone and dialed Natasha's number. Ring, 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 no answer. He tried again, silence. She's not answering, Oleg said, feeling hopeless. Maybe she's busy, Irina suggested, trying to remain calm. I don't understand, Oleg muttered, looking at the house. Pavel cleared his throat. Listen, young man. I understand this is difficult, but we have all the documents confirming our ownership of this house. We paid for it and we're going to live here. But what about us? Irina asked. Max, who had been engrossed in his phone, finally looked up. Dad, what's happening? Why can't we go in? Oleg had no answer. He felt completely humiliated. He had relied on his cunning, thinking he was in control of everything, and now he was the one who had been deceived. I'll fix everything, he muttered, dialing Natasha's number again. But the phone was silent. She had left, leaving him with his ex-wife and son in a car full of belongings, and with his plans ruined. Seeing Oleg's confusion, Pavel and Zenaida quietly entered the house, leaving him alone in the cold autumn sun. Oleg froze, not knowing what to do. He looked at the closed door and realized that it was all over. His plan had failed. He had lost everything, and he only had himself to blame. Irina, overwhelmed by the tension, burst into tears. Max, confused and not understanding what was happening, hugged her, seeking comfort. Oleg looked at them and felt even more miserable. He had betrayed Natasha, deceived Irina, and disappointed Max, and now he had to face the consequences. He tried calling Natasha again, but there was no answer. He was struck by how decisively and ruthlessly she had acted. She had taken her revenge, and he was powerless to stop it. Turning to Irina and Max, he said, Let's go. There's nothing left for us here. Max silently followed him, still not fully understanding. Oleg got into the car, started the engine, and slowly drove away, feeling a profound emptiness as he watched the house disappear in the rearview mirror. Along the way, he repeatedly tried to call Natasha, but received no answer. Finally, he received a message. Let's meet at the office tomorrow. Natasha didn't want to meet in any place significant to them, or even see him at all, but she understood that this meeting was necessary to bring everything to an end. The next day, she arrived on time, sitting at a table by the window with a cup of coffee. Oleg was 15 minutes late, breathless and clearly agitated. Natasha, I'm sorry I'm late, he said, sitting down opposite her, despair and hope mixed in his eyes. Natasha didn't answer. She took a small sip of coffee and calmly put the cup down, her face impassive and inscrutable. What does all this mean? Oleg finally asked, breaking the silence. Do you even understand what you've done? I understand everything perfectly, Natasha replied in a calm but firm voice. Even better than you think. We dreamed about this together, and now I see everything clearly. Darling, I'm sorry I'm late, Oleg quickly said, sitting down opposite Natasha. Despair and hope were mixed in his eyes. Natasha didn't answer. She took a small sip of coffee and calmly put the cup down. What does all this mean? Oleg finally asked, breaking the heavy silence. Do you even understand what you've done? I understand everything perfectly, Oleg, Natasha said calmly. Better than you think. We dreamed of this life together, but I took steps to protect myself. And Max. He's just a child. And what about me? Am I just a piece of furniture in the house that you can move around as you please? You didn't ask me anything. You just presented me with a fait accompli. You'll have to accept it. Do you remember your own words? Oleg was silent, his head bowed. Any excuses he could come up with sounded weak even to himself. I've long understood what kind of person you are, Oleg. That only your desires matter to you, and that you're ready to step over anyone to get what you want. Natasha continued firmly. That's why I acted preemptively. We're breaking up, but why be so cruel? Oleg whispered. Why make a fool of me? Why leave me with nothing? And how did you expect me to react? Thank you for the betrayal? Applaud your clever plan to bring your ex-wife into our home? You chose this path yourself, Oleg. You dug your own grave. Dumyo, I thought you would forgive me. You always forgave me before, he mumbled. I loved you. I trusted you. I turned a blind eye to your shortcomings. But there's a limit to everything. My patience ran out the moment you decided you could dispose of my life, my home, and my future as you pleased, Natasha said in a calm and unwavering voice. What will happen now? Oleg asked, looking at her with despair. Now you will face the consequences of your actions, Natasha replied, standing up. And I will start a new life without you. She headed towards the exit, leaving Oleg alone with his ruined plans. He sat motionless watching her leave, and memories of their first meeting, their wedding and buying the house which now seemed distant and unreal, flashed through his mind. Natasha found temporary refuge in her mother's house, Tatiana Sergeyevna, ready to begin a new chapter in her life. Her mother greeted her with open arms, her eyes full of pride and understanding. My dear, I always knew you were strong, said Tatiana Sergeyevna, hugging her tightly. Natasha smiled, feeling grateful. Her mother's support was all she needed right now. Thank you, Mom. I don't know what I would do without you, she said. Everything will be all right, Natasha. You are young, talented, and capable. You have your whole life ahead of you, her mother reassured her. Natasha spent several days at her mother's house, resting and reflecting. She thought about the past, learned from her mistakes, and began planning for the future. The most difficult thing was coming to terms with the fact that Oleg, the man she loved and trusted, turned out to be completely different from who she thought he was. His selfishness and greed overshadowed everything good in their relationship. A few months later, Natasha bought an apartment in the city center. She carefully furnished it, transforming it into a cozy and welcoming home. She focused on her work, developed her business, traveled, and met new people, building a fulfilling and independent life. Natasha realized that everything had happened for a reason. The pain and disappointment had made her stronger and wiser. She learned to value herself, embrace her independence, and look to the future with confidence. She was no longer afraid. She was ready for new challenges and new adventures. She knew she deserved happiness and was determined to find it.